example of how to play a Trick Room team, keep your eyes peeled on Alex.
Yeah, Alex has got to be the standout, a hard Trick Room team player at this point. Really, really successful. We're just consistently using the same kind of team. Maybe those little tweaks here and there. Yes, we do have the new toy in that Ursaluna, but yeah, he's been so consistent with that team across multiple tournaments. I think the key thing here is that there is that weather war in that Pelipper and the Torkoal, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. So they're not going to be led with either Pokemon here. It is going to be, for Alex, a classic lead of Annihilate and also Trick Room Setter in that Hatterene, but facing down that Archaludon and Amoonguss.
Most notably, the Amoonguss has too much health for Final Gambit to be able to knock it out in one by only a few hit points. So the Amoonguss is kind of safe in this situation, but Archaludon definitely isn't. I suppose the question for Yoel is whether he's willing to have the Amoonguss go down to such low hit points to take a Final Gambit redirected away from Archaludon with a Rage Powder, or if he needs it for later in the game to be a little bit higher HP so he can redirect things like the Ursaluna in the back that only has moves that target down one slot at a time.
Yeah, here comes the Rage Powder from the Amoonguss so that it can keep that Archaludon safe from any close combats or Final Gambits. It does look like it is the Final Gambit into that opposing Amoonguss, but as we said, Amoonguss has a much higher base HP than Annihilate, is able to survive. Very low, but is able to survive. But Archaludon doesn't have Flash Cannon here. Snarl is still very nice. It's going to be able to reduce the special attack of that Hatterene, but Flash Cannon would have been able to threaten some very good damage here. But yeah, there goes that Trick Room that Alex does love to click.
All in all, I think I prefer the Snarl in this situation.
Yeah.
If you do damage to the Hatterene and you don't knock it out, then you've got to deal with it at full power, whereas the Snarl kind of gives you a little bit of breathing room that you really need, especially now that you've got 4 turns of Trick Room to be able to go through. Now, usually Amoonguss in Trick Room is one of the slowest potential Pokemon on both sides of the field, but Hatterene sits just below it, and it's able to launch out powerful expanding forces before the Amoonguss is going to be able to go for anything like a Spore. So that's something that Yoel's going to have to play around if he wants to position himself well in that game. You don't have to worry about it as much because of the Snarl, but with the Indeedee setting up the Psychic Terrain, no Rillaboom in sight to overwrite it, it's definitely on Yoel to be able to reposition and get his Pokemon into a spot where they can actually pressure things back.
Like the fact that Alex brought the Indeedee in here, yes, the expanding force is now at full power, but you're not actually really threatening this Archaludon much at all. It's been
true.
You've got a Snarl on the Hatterene. Dazzling Gleam won't do too much now. Expanding force is resisted. It's a very, very easy play to just go for a Protect on the Amoonguss, because that would easily be KO'd, and then the Archaludon wouldn't be threatened too much here. But yeah, Hatterene is just keeping herself safe here with a Protect in the face of the Amoonguss also going for that Protect.
Yeah, I like that. Protect when your opponent is going to protect, and then just take a full advantage of it. But there's a Psychic coming out from the Indeedee. The Indeedee is not the attacker of choice on this dedicated Trick Room team. It doesn't do really any damage to this Assault Vest Archaludon, and you can just see how much the Snarl is going to make an impact here, dropping now the Indeedee's special attack even further. Almost no damage coming out from Alex's side of the field. And yeah, you called it, Jamie. The Archaludon is sitting there nice and happy. Really, Alex needs to get that Ursaluna in on the board as quickly as possible.
Yeah, assuming it is going to be the Ursaluna, if you brought Torkoal in the face of a Pelipper, that's not going to have a good time. So yeah, it's just really not threatening the damage here. And that was another turn of Trick Room stalled out with the Hatterene going for the Protect. Yes, you did catch the Amoonguss going for Protect, and now you can pretty safely go for an Expanding Force for the KO. But we saw how much the Psychic did in the Archaludon. Yes, the Expanding Force will be a bit stronger, but it's really not going to be much damage at all.
Amoonguss getting some health back with its Regenerator ability, leaving the field in favor of Pelipper to come in and take those attacks. Get the rain set up, maybe get that Archaludon going, get the Electro Shots going so that it can do a little bit more damage than the Snarl is doing at the moment. Helping Hand, Expanding Force, not enough to even take that Pelipper down to its Focus Sash with the Snarl drop that it had before, and a Body Press there with Archaludon taking advantage of the defense boost that it just received from the Expanding Force.
Yeah, choosing not to go for another Snarl there. That could have put the Hatterene at -2, and then it would have really not done much damage at all. The Dazzling Gleam coming out from the Hatterene there, not able to pick up the knockout on the Pelipper because Expanding Force would have definitely brought it down to its focus sash. But our Chaladon is still it's been chipped. It's down to half.
Definitely.
Yeah, so you're doing some good damage, but this is the final turn of Trick Room, so you should be able to survive with both of your Pokemon here. You can pretty safely go for the Protect on the Pelipper. There's no White Guard, which is a saving grace for Alex, so you can pretty safely attack with the Hatterene on this final turn, but this is the final turn of Trick Room. There's no reason for that Pelipper not to protect.
Yeah, Pelipper just making sure that it's not taking any damage. Snarl coming out. Is it going to be a double Trick Room here to reset those Trick Rooms? Give Alex a little bit more time under those conditions. Indeed, he didn't get knocked out by this Snarl. Here it is, first Trick Room coming out from the Hatterene. Are we going to see the second one? I assume we are here. Yep, there we go. Trick Room going off and coming back online again. No longer one turn of Trick Room remaining, all four instead.
Yeah, I said no reason to not protect there. There's a huge reason.
Yeah, a big old reason.
Massive reason not to protect there. Because if that Pelipper would have just attacked, that's a KO, and it's just a reversal of Trick Room and then not a resetting of Trick Room. So that would have put Yoel pretty much in the driving seat and would have almost certainly taken this game. But now there are 4 turns of Trick Room remaining rather than 0. This does give Alex a chance back into the game. You still have to break through this Archaladon somehow. It's gone for a Snarl on that double Trick Room. So the Hatterene and Indeedee, they're not doing damage now. But at least you do still have the Trick Room.
They are doing damage to the Pelipper enough to be able to knock it out, and the Amoonguss in the back is not safe either. Hatterene, I think, probably heard you. And now the Torkoal's coming in. What a great switch up here. Taking away the Archaladon's ability to go for Electro Shot, taking away the Pelipper's Weather Ball going for a Water type, but Pelipper heard the Torkoal coming for, do you know what, I need to just take a break, guys. Amoonguss coming back in, taking a Psychic for its troubles, and not enough. The Snarls were enough to make sure that the Amoonguss wasn't getting KO'd. Yoel not falling for it and going for a body press instead of locking the Archaladon into an Electro Shot.
Yeah, and I think going for the Snarl there would have actually been not ideal for Yoel, because you would have KO'd the Indeedee and you'd have got that switch in to the Hatterene that would no longer be Snarl. And here are some actually pretty strong Expanding Forces now. But the very key thing there was that the Pelipper was switched out that turn as the Torkoal switched in. So at any point you can bring in the Pelipper, overwrite that Sun, and it shouldn't be able to pick up the knockout on that Archaladon.
Probably not.
Like, it's taking the body press chip damage, so the Eruption's not going to do it now. The alternative is Weather Ball, and if the Pelipper switches in, then suddenly the Weather Ball is a Water type attack, so that also will not do much damage to that opposing Archaladon.
Indeed, he's switching out here, and I really like that because the Psychic terrain is not looking long to be left on the field. Hatterene switching in its favor with its Magic Bounce ability. It would be able to bounce back a Spore, and the Spore coming out here into that Magic Bounce. Hatterene is going to go right back to the Amoonguss, which is not going to be affected because, of course, it is a Grass type, and what looked like another Snarl coming out here. So a great call there for Yoel, just making sure, even though that Hatterene reset those drops from before, it's kind of got them back again.
Yeah, and now with that -1 on the Hatterene, and well, is that going to be in range of Dazzling Gleam into Eruption or Weather Ball? I'm not sure it will be, because it's taken a lot of damage reduction with just even a -1. I've already mentioned the Torkoal. It's not that healthy, so it looks like it does want to be switching out here. This is to allow the Expanding Force to do some really good damage from the Hatterene.
Indeed, coming in, getting that Psychic terrain back on the board so that Hatterene's Expanding Force is back to full power, but it's not going to be an Expanding Force, just a Dazzling Gleam. I think trying to cover all of the scenarios there. Taking the knockout on Amoonguss, that's a big piece of the puzzle that Alex has now removed from the board, but this Archaladon is going to be able to get yet another Snarl off. The Indeedee goes down, the Hatterene goes to -2 special attack. There's going to be no more Psychic terrain after it's gone now, so there's a timer on Trick Room and there's a timer on the Expanding Force.
Yeah, there is for sure. And this is actually a situation where you can just immediately bring in your Pelipper, because as the Torkoal and the Pelipper come in, Torkoal will be the slowest and Trick Room's active, so it'll activate the Drought first, and then the Pelipper would have overwritten it. Yes, the Drought's already on the field, so this could have been an opportunity for Pelipper immediately, but no, Torkoal's going to be coming in. Pelipper can come in when it wants to be able to overwrite that Sun.
You've got to be kind of thinking about how you're going to be getting out of Trick Room here if you're Yoel. The Gallade coming in does have the ability to protect, but doesn't have the ability to wide guard. You called that out earlier, Jamie, and that's going to be a really big deal for this this game. Gallade came in wide guard right now. It would be able to just use it until the end of Trick Room and not really worry too much about what was on the board. But Yoel has to be careful here. You know, you can turn off the Torkoal's Eruption doing lots and lots of damage. And is that a forfeit?
Yeah, it looks like it was a forfeit there. The Pelipper being able to overwrite the Sun, and also the Hatterene being at -2. The Galade's going to be able to shrug off those attacks, and it would just be able to pick up a knockout with a Psycho Cut into basically either Pokemon. So yeah, Alex seeing the writing on the wall there. It does seem like Yoel is going to be able to take this first game.
And a really nice way that he took it as well. It's not often that you see these dedicated Trick Room teams be power controlled in the way that Yoel was doing. And I think that's when you're looking at going from game 1 to game 2 adaptations, what does Alex actually really need to do? Ursaluna. Like, it feels like Ursaluna is the answer.
Yeah, I like Torkoal into Pelipper does make sense because you do opt into the Weather War, and if you do get weather control, then you are actually pretty sorted and you just spam those eruptions. Ursaluna doesn't need to worry about that. If it gets into position, it will just be able to headlong rush that Archaludon. It was going for Snarl the whole time. As soon as the Annihilate was taken care of, the rest of the team is special. Yeah. So it's just being able to reduce that damage. Another thing as well, if that Annihilate doesn't go for a final Gambit and it takes a Snarl, well, that would be pretty good, wouldn't it? Because it would activate the Defiant, and then suddenly you're threatening some really good damage. So that could be an option as well, because it was Snarl on the first turn. It was final Gambit into Snarl, and then you could have just left it on the field, and then suddenly here's a boosted Annihilate.
And the nice thing about that is that Expanding Force, even though if it's not in Psychic terrain, would still be able to do lots and lots of damage to the Amoonguss if Archaludon Amoonguss is the lead of choice again for Yoel. So yeah, there's a lot of good lines that I really like that, actually using the Annihilate kind of as a Pokemon rather than as a
3v3 bot.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a really nice way to say it. So lots of adaptations that we could see coming into this game. And I like kind of opting out of the Weather War. Yeah. Kind of maybe baiting the Archaludon, saying like, hey, you're in the rain. Don't you want to Electro Shot right now? Oh yeah. Switch in the Ursaluna, take it, not take any damage from it whatsoever. Yeah. Then on that turn that you switch in, the Flame Orb activates. You've got the Ursaluna set up really, really quickly, and then you can just go on the offensive or take advantage of your opponent's defensive play and go for a substitute.
Yeah, there's definitely still options for Alex. It does look like Yoel was in control of that first game after losing the Annihilate, just being able to spam Snarl here. But it is a switch up from Alex, going with that Indeedee and Hatterene, but still a mix-up coming out from Yoel as well. That's a Gallade led next to the Archaludon this time.
Yeah, and that's going to be quite interesting to see how that really shakes up. I'm just having a little look behind the scenes at this Gallade, because it does have the opportunity to go for Trick Room. So there's opportunity for 1, 2, 3 or 0 Trick Rooms to go up this turn, and depending on whether it's an odd or even number will depend on whether or not we're going to be ending up in Trick Room this turn. But if not, the Gallade is now boosted up by the Psychic terrain. Its Psycho Cut's going to be doing lots of damage, even though both of the Pokemon on Alex's side do resist it. They're still going to be probably doing enough. And of course, you do have the pressure of Snarl going up here. But here it is. Ursaluna's on the board. Yeah,
Ursaluna won't care about any Snarls here and is not taking any kind of damage from the Gallade on the switch-in, as Gallade is going to be protecting here. Yeah, there's the Snarl coming out. Ursaluna does not mind that in the slightest. And indeed, he could very easily just be setting that Trick Room up, ready for that Ursaluna.
There we go.
There it is. And immediately, that Ursaluna is online, because as you said, it switched in on this turn. It's ending the turn on the field, and there is that Flame Orb.
JB, I want to switch perspectives right now, because I do not want to be staring down that Ursaluna with its Flame Orb activated, its Guts boost in play. The Headlong Rush, the Facade are going to be boosted up to their full power, and there's no redirect on the board right now. If the Amoonguss, which we can see that it's in the back, comes in, it's not going to be able to spore against the Ursaluna because it's burnt. And there's no Intimidates on your side of the field. There's no power control. There's no way to stop this Ursaluna just taking knockout after knockout after knockout. And of course the Indeedee as well. If that wasn't enough, it's got Helping Hand too.
Yeah, for sure. It's good. Like, Ursaluna will one-hit knockout every single Pokemon, basically. Maybe not the Amoonguss, but Amoonguss might be able to survive. And you could switch in the Pelipper on one of the ground-type attacks coming out from the Ursaluna as well, potentially. But yeah, the Gallade did go for Protect last turn. There's the Facade. That was probably KOing 2 Gallades. Ursaluna's so strong. Easily able to pick up that one-hit knockout. Archaludon is able to respond back with a Draco Meteor here, and that was some good damage into that opposing Ursaluna, but it's still looking reasonably healthy and would be able to fire up another really powerful attack.
The Hatterene coming in here is big, though, because the Pelipper, we know, doesn't have wide guard. The Amoonguss comes in, unless it goes for its Terra type, and its Terra type is water, it would probably be knocked out quite easily by a expanding force. So in order to protect the Archaludon from any damage from the Ursaluna, you have to Terra redirect with Amoonguss. Instead, Yoel is opting to go a little bit more on the offensive, bring the Pelipper in, get that weather set up, kind of assume that Alex has opted out of the weather wall and try to put on pressure with just a weather ball instead and take advantage of the focus sash that it's holding.
Yeah, you should be able to get off one attack into that Ursaluna, but the Draco Meteor, it did about that much, maybe a tiny bit more into the Ursaluna, and now you're on -2 stages of special attack, so that's probably not quite enough to KO the Ursaluna. So if you double into the Pelipper with Expanding Force and Facade, that would easily KO, and then you're probably surviving. If you attack the Archaludon with a Headlong Rush, now the Pelipper's on the field, that's also going to be a KO, but maybe forcing that defensive Terror coming out from the Archaludon so it can survive, but no defensive Terrors here at all. It is just that Expanding Force, no Protect from the Pelipper. It's absolutely brought down to its Focus Sash. Which Pokemon is the Ursaluna going to KO? It can KO either Pokemon it wants to. Maybe it's got its defense boost on.
I think it's still going.
It's still going down if it's a Headlong Rush. It's still going down.
Yeah. And there it is. The Archaludon goes down. I was getting really excited when the Pelipper went down to 1. I was thinking, yeah, it's going to be a lot. Oh, yeah, it's got Focus Sash there. Archaludon going back to its trainer. And this Ursaluna is doing so much work. Yoel choosing to target instead of the Ursaluna, the Hatterene, maybe reading into that Ursaluna, playing a little bit defensively, and the Hatterene just trying to chip away the Focus Sash, trying to do that last little bit of damage. But instead, Amoonguss has to come into the field, and this is probably one of the least happy places that Amoonguss has been. The Pelipper's going down to Expanding Force or a Dazzling Gleam, and of course the Facade will easily be enough to pick up the knockout onto the Amoonguss. But the Amoonguss, it doesn't even have the grass type coverage that some of them do to be able to do damage into the Ursaluna. Instead, opting for Clear Smog, which is not very effective, and Ursaluna is probably going to be able to survive that hit.
And it would also appreciate it because it would get rid of the Headlong Rush defense drops as well. So Amoonguss is not very helpful here. It is forced into its defensive terrestrialization, so it is at least neutral from the Expanding Force that is almost certainly coming out from this Hatterene. Pelipper going to protect itself, no access to Wide Guard. Wide Guard would have been great here to stop the Expanding Force. It would have just shut down that Hatterene completely, but no, has to protect instead, which means that this Expanding Force is going to be hitting into this Amoonguss. Yes, it is now neutral. That's still loads. That's still a lot of damage, and absolutely in range of any attack that the Ursaluna wants to go for. There's a Spore, doesn't particularly matter. You can't Spore the Ursaluna because it's already burned. There's the Facade, easily picking up the KO. Yes, you do take some Rocky Helmet on the way out, but you got a 1 HP Pelipper against now 3 Pokemon from Alex. I think this is going to a game 3.
That's definitely a silver lining kind of moment there, where even the burn is not enough to pick up the KO on the Ursaluna. So 4 Pokemon against Pelipper. Pelipper can only target 1 Pokemon at a time, and I think the writing's on the wall for Yoel. So we are, as you say, Jamie, going to our game 3 here, and just that last Expanding Force into the Pelipper, doing that requisite 1 HP damage, and the Pelipper going back to Yoel.
Yeah, that Ursaluna adjustment for Alex was very, very impactful here. Able to pick up so many KOs. Being able to get it active on turn 1, like as soon as you set the Trick Room, usually like you maybe have to go for redirection or fake out and then Trick Room, and then the Ursaluna's on the field for 1 turn without the burn. Facade's not that strong. Like it's okay. And Headlong Rush does some reasonable damage, but as soon as you get that burn, you pick up 1-hit knockouts all over the place.
Yeah, both increasing the power of Facade and the guts increasing damage that Ursaluna can do with its moves as well, while it has a status condition, burn of course being the one of choice. But okay, we've had game 1. Yoel piloted it very, very well. Alex made an adjustment in game 2. Jamie, what are you thinking here going into game 3? How do Yoel and Alex need to react to what they've seen so far?
Well, I don't think Yoel can be passive on that turn 1. He protected the Glade on that turn 1. That's definitely an opportunity for you to just go on the offensive, maybe get some really good damage into the Indeedee with Sacred Sword. If you went for Sacred Sword into the Hatterene, that would have won the game on the spot because the Ursaluna switched in. But obviously that's an incredible incredibly risky play to make into a quad resistance of fighting. But, you know, like the Gallade, it didn't need to be passive. It could have just clicked Trick Room as well, and then it would have reversed the Trick Room, and then suddenly we're still at the same move order. But here's the Ursaluna that now you kind of need to follow me with the Ndidi, or maybe you protect and Trick Room, but suddenly here's the double up into the Ndidi and it's KO. So yeah, don't be passive on the turn one. You're in control of the speed on that first turn. Alex wants to be setting Trick Room. You can do what you want on that first turn. Protect is probably not what you want to be doing.
If you were Alex in this situation, let's say the leads are the same in game 3. If you were Alex in that situation, would you switch out the Hatterene to Ursaluna again?
Oh, there is absolutely that mind game. Like, it could easily be, well, the Hatterene clicks Trick Room and the Ndidi switches into the Ursaluna, and here's the Sacred Sword into the Hatterene, and it does, like, no damage. And then Trick Room is still set up again. Like, there's always going to be that mind game. And
so hard.
This kind of, like, hard Trick Room team, as we always call it, does offer those mind games. There's usually not a safe path into, well, here is how I stop Trick Room, because suddenly, like we saw, like spamming Snarl, Hatterene and Ndidi as a lead, spam Snarl. That's really good, because yes, they will set Trick Room, but they're not very strong. But suddenly here's Ursaluna on turn 1. But then at the same time, you could have just Sacred Sword of the Hatterene. I say just. It's an incredibly risky play to make.
Obviously
you should Sacred Sword the quad resistance. But so there are always going to be these mind games going into here. But Ndidi Annihilate, this is the classic from Alex. He led this so much in Regulation E and has now switched it up to that Annihilate and the Ndidi.
Well, there's a switch up as well for Yoel, bringing the Tsarina in as well next to our Chaladon. And I do think this Tsarina is answering the question of, one, how do I do damage? But two, in this spot, it does offer the taunt, and that's something that Alex is going to have to be really paying attention to. It almost locks the final Gambit targeting into that Tsarina, but it can protect itself. And so you've got to play this kind of game. It's like, well, if I don't go for the taunt, then the Ndidi's almost certainly going to be setting up Trick Room this turn. If I do go for the taunt, I'm risking the final Gambit play, and Trick Room's still probably going up in that scenario. So I do think the safest play is to try to protect, do a little bit of damage to that Annihilate, and force Alex to choose a little bit more.
Oh, he didn't go for the Tsarina, though. He has KO'd that Archaladon on turn 1. And the Tsarina, we've already gotten a sneak preview of what's going to happen here. Fantastic play from Alex, because here comes
this is
the
so good.
taunt to stop Trick Room. But no, here comes the magic bounce to taunt your taunt. You can no longer taunt
that's so good.
Fantastic.
That is so good.
Coming out from Alex. It made so much sense to, well, final Gambit, I'll stop the taunt, and here's Trick Room. Like, I'll accept that
obviously.
Again, like we said, there's no obvious play coming out here, and Alex is just a master of this hard Trick Room, being able to read that turn absolutely perfectly. Yes, the Tsarina can still do good damage with Power Whip now, but you can't taunt that Ndidi to stop Trick Room anymore, and you can't protect. It's definitely going to be taking maybe some damage from the Hatterene. Are you strong enough to be able to KO the Pelipper with the Pelipper and Tsarina into the Ndidi? Because if you are, you can at least force the Follow Me into the Trick Room. But
but then the Ndidi goes down, and you've got another Trick Room attacker coming back.
So that would be perfectly fine.
If Torkoal's in the back, which it could be.
It could be.
With that targeting as well, if the Archaladon is the key threat that Alex wanted to remove from play, then maybe it's not the Ursaluna in the back. Maybe there's another adaptation here. We'll have to see, as the Pelipper is going for its Terra Stella in this game. I think, is this the first Terra we've seen in this match?
I think it might have been, actually, that's very uncommon in these regulations. Going for Terra Stella, like the combination, it's a Follow Me. It's a Follow Me in Trick Room, of course it is. That's a very classic thing.
Absolutely.
But Pelipper going for its Terra Stella, this will KO. This combination of now Terra Stella boosted Weather Ball into Ndidi and also Power, this will KO Ndidi. That did so much more than I expected.
Well, I mean, if that had picked up the KO, this Power Whip would have gone into the battery. That was very, very close there. But the Ndidi goes down, Power Whip hits its mark. I know you're always happy to see those inaccurate moves actually connecting with their targets. Trick Room, of course, is going up, and then we will see how Alex has prepared for this matchup. The last two Pokemon that Alex has available are indeed Ursaluna and Hatterene. Yeah, Hatterene.
Yeah, so the saving grace here is that the Ursaluna doesn't have its Flame Orb on this one turn, but actually still the taunt, the Magic Bounce taunt is coming into play here.
Oh my God,
you can't protect to stall out one of the turns. So that slot is taking damage. That Expanding Force might be enough to KO Serena. Like, Serena's got reasonable bulk, but it's taken some chip. So I reckon it survives from full HP, but that little bit of chip, it might be enough to put it in range of Expanding Force. And if that's the case, Serena goes down. And if you switch in a Pokemon, well, you're not going to be able to take an Expanding Force very comfortably. Your only resist is gone now. The Archarodon was KO'd on turn 1, so nothing wants to switch into this Expanding Force. So yes, even though the Ursaluna, it's not burned at the moment, the combination of Facade and Expanding Force would KO the Pelipper, and it might still be strong enough to KO this Serena here. Yes, here is the Expanding Force, and Serena, yep, there it goes. It's gone.
It's gone.
Doesn't matter about the Flame Orb. 1 HP, you can do that much damage without a burn.
I think he's going to manage it, just as long as he's clicked Facade instead of Headlong Rush.
Yep.
That's the only way that this could have gone wrong for Alex here. Here it is, the Facade into Pelipper, 2 knockouts on this turn. Yoel with only 1 Pokemon in the back. We've seen a preview of it, and I'm sure in just a moment Alex will be very happy to see that the last Pokemon that Yoel has available to him in this match is, of course, that Amoonguss, which only has Clear Smog as a damaging move. It's not going to cut it, Jamie.
It's not, no.
It's not.
No. Like, normally you bring a Moongus to be able to counter trigger him. In this case.
This is high-level analysis here. It's like, no.
Game over. Alex wins round 4. Poor Amoonguss.
Poor Amoonguss. Yeah, you know what?